In this video, I'm going to show you how to build a home server in 10 minutes with CasaOS using Raspberry Pi 4. CasaOS leverages the power of Docker ecosystem. It's an open source project focused on delivering a simple personal cloud experience. For instance, you can set up a Jellyfin, Nextcloud, Plex Media server, and Pi-hole within a few seconds with CasaOS. That being said, let's start building the home server with CasaOS. The requirements of this video: you need a Raspberry Pi 4 with 4 gigs of RAM or higher, an Ethernet cable for internet connection, a power adapter, and an external SSD. Instead of using an SD card, we will be using an external SSD to install the operating system. Now open your browser and navigate to the following link. Download and install the Raspberry Pi Imager. I'm using a Windows 11 computer, so I selected the corresponding version. Once installed, open the software and connect the external SSD through the USB 3 port on your computer. Now choose OS and select Raspberry Pi or other. Then opt for Raspberry Pi OS Lite 64-bit. Now select storage and choose your SSD. Before clicking on Write, let's tweak some settings. Now click on the settings gear icon. Enable set hostname to identify the Raspberry Pi 4 on a network. For example, I'm going to set it as Raspberry Pi 4. Also enable SSH to connect to Raspberry Pi from a remote computer. Now choose use password authentication and set the username and password. For example, Pi4 as the username. You can enable wireless LAN and provide a valid SSID and password for automatic Wi-Fi connection after each reboot, but it's recommended to use an Ethernet cable for internet connection. Now set the locale and click on Save. Now click on Write and the software will flash the Raspberry Pi OS to the SSD. Now this will take a few seconds. After completion, close the software and eject the SSD. Now reconnect the SSD back to your computer. You will find that the bootfs has mounted where the Raspberry Pi OS boot files are located. Now look for the config.txt and add the following lines at the bottom to overclock the Raspberry Pi 4. So please ensure you have a proper CPU cooler install before overclocking to avoid any issues. You go ahead and connect the SSD or external drive along with the power supply and Ethernet cable and turn on the Raspberry Pi. To connect to the Raspberry Pi from a remote computer, open command prompt on your Windows computer and type ping-4 Raspberry Pi 4.local. Raspberry Pi 4 is the hostname that I set to my Pi. Then running this command will display the IP address associated with that hostname on the network, like 192.168.111, which is the current IP address assigned by router. Now I'm going to use this IP address to connect to Raspberry Pi. In command prompt type SSH space Pi4 ampersand and the IP address of the Raspberry Pi 4. Now replace the IP address with your Raspberry Pi's IP. Then enter the password when prompted. Voila, we have connected to Raspberry Pi 4. The first thing is to update the apt source list by running this command. Then edit the SSH config file to increase the idle timeout limit for SSH connection. Now type this command and uncomment these two lines. Now setting client alive interval to 1 million to keep the SSH connection active for a few hours. Now once this is done, save the changes. Now head over to this URL in your browser to set up Casa OS. Now copy this line and paste it on the command prompt. This installation will take a few minutes to install, so please be patient. Now once it's done, open a new tab in your browser and type the IP address of your Pi to access the Casa OS web UI. Now set the username and password in Casa OS. Congratulations, you have successfully set up a Casa OS on the Raspberry Pi. Now as you can see, this is the Casa OS web UI accessible within a network from any browser using the Raspberry Pi IP address. The sidebar displays real-time system usage. Casa OS offers a default file storage server for media files, documents, and more. Now let's proceed and install some applications. In Casa OS, apps are referred to be as a Docker images. Now these are the curated selection of Docker images or applications that you can quickly install to run various app services. For example, let's set up the Jellyfin server. To do so, locate the Jellyfin application and click on Install. The setup will be completed in just a few seconds, and then you can access the Jellyfin server through the application. The Jellyfin server is running on port number 8096 and can be accessed from any device within a network. Now, similarly, with Casa OS, you can instantly run any app services like Nextcloud, Plex Media Server, Grafana, Pi-hole, and more. Installing Casa OS on your Raspberry Pi 4 will transform it into a simple home server in a matter of a few seconds. It's time to set up the static IP address for your Raspberry Pi 4. And as you can see, this is the current IP address of my Raspberry Pi 4. If you want to set up a static IP address for your Raspberry Pi, it's recommended to do so through your Wi-Fi router by reserving the IP address permanently. However, if you prefer another method, you can head back to the command prompt and type this command to set the static IP address. You can simply rewrite the above lines, then modify the IP address. In my case, 192.168.111 is the desired one that I chose to use. And in your case, the IP address series will be different. So follow the above line as an example. After saving the changes and rebooting the Raspberry Pi 4, you should be able to ping the new static IP address. Now please note that using the router to set a static IP address is the preferred and more reliable method. And that's pretty much it. This is how you can build a home server in just a matter of 10 minutes with Casa OS using Raspberry Pi 4. Check the description for more information. Thanks for watching my video. This has been KSK Ryle. I will see you in the next one.